Hello, my dear students. I am Anand sir. Today we are going to discuss about a lesson, The Fun They Had, which is written by Isaac Asimov. The story we shall read is set in the future, when books and schools as we now know them will perhaps not exist. How will children study then? The diagram may give you some ideas. We can see some schools of the future in the pictures. For example, learning through computers, virtual classroom, robotic teacher, and moving e-text. Students, now listen reading of the lesson carefully.
Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed 17 May 2155, she wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages, which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to, on a screen, you know. And then when they turned back to the page, it had same words on it that it had when they read it the first time.
Gee, what a waste! When you're through with the book, you just throw it away, I guess. Our television screen must have had 1,000,000 books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away.
Same with mine. Where did you find it?
In my house.
He pointed without looking, because he was busy reading in the attic.
What's it about?
School.
Cool. What's there to write about school? I hate school.
Margie always hated school. But now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at her and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right, and after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown, and the question was asked. That wasn't so bad. The part she hated most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code. They made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. The inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted her head.
It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. Those things happen sometimes. I've slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory.
Margie was disappointed.
Why should anyone write about school?
Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Centuries ago.
Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago. Anyway, they had a teacher.
Sure, they had a teacher. But it wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man.
How could a man be a teacher? A man isn't smart enough.
Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions.
A man isn't smart enough.
Sure he is. My father knows as much as my teacher. He knows almost as much as I, betcha.
I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me.
You don't know much, Margie. The teacher didn't live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there.
And all the kids learn the same thing?
Sure, if they were the same age.
But my mother says a teacher had to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl it teaches, and that each kid has to be taught differently.
Just the same. They didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
Margie, school!
Not yet, Mama.
Now. And it's probably time for Tommy too.
Can I read the book some more with you after school?
Maybe.
He walked away whistling with the dusty old book tucked away beneath his arm. Margie went into the schoolroom. It was right next to her bedroom. And the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturday and Sunday because her mother said little girls learn better if they learned at regular hours. The screen was lit up and it said, "Today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot." Margie did so with a sigh. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting, in the schoolyard, sitting together in the schoolroom, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things so they could help one another on the homework and talk about it. And the teachers were people. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen. When we add the fractions 1/4 and half. Margie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking about the fun they had.
Now we shall discuss the lesson, the fun they had.
So the story is set in the future, and in the story we have two children. One is Margie, and the other is Tommy. They are brother and sister, and they go to a very different kind of school, very different from ours, because the story is set in 2157, the 22nd century, and they do not have regular teachers like we do nowadays. They have only computers at home. They have virtual classrooms at home, and then when they need to learn something, they just go to the room to the computer, and they learn the topics that are shown on the computers, and then they do the homework given by the computers. So this is a kind of a school that we are going to see, and partially nowadays because of the pandemic, we are seeing this. So let's go through the story in short. In this video, we'll do a summary only, and in later videos, we'll do the question answers and the book work. So it so happens that Tommy found the book, and Margie calls it a real book because she had never seen a book like that. They call it real because they have seen only digital books, e-books that can be seen on TVs, computers. And this book belonged to her grandfather, and it was pretty used, pretty battered. It was yellowish. So after finding the book, they became very curious to know about it. It was a very old book. So it was a time when all stories were printed on paper, and this was also kind of new for them because in their days nothing is printed on paper, and they were surprised to see that they could see the same words printed on the same pages. Whenever you wanted to go back, you could go back. And this is a question comes like this. You might have to talk about the differences between their books and our books. So these are some of the differences I have written out here for you. Words are still. They remain the same, of course. You can go back to find the same words as the first time. And over time, they lose value. According to Tommy, after they are done reading, they just throw it. And then the storage capacity is very low because we can store only so much information according to the size of the book. So both are talking about this, and Tommy feels that it's a waste of money and resources that they had for the book. And these two children were 11 and 13. Margie was 11 and Tommy was 13. And then there's a curious thing: Margie hates her school because uh, the geography teacher was the geography teacher is nothing but a computer, and it was kind of running very fast for Margie's level, and that is why it was giving her test after test, and she was flunking, failing all the tests, and that is why she started hating school. So because of that, her mother had to send for the county inspector. The county inspector is not a policeman; he is an inspector in charge of education, and he looks after these gadgets using which children learn. So he came, and then when he came, Margie hoped that he won't be able to repair the gadget, repair the computer, but he took it apart, and after a while, he slowed it down to Margie's level, and Margie was very disappointed. So after this, uh, the thing that Margie hated the most was the homework part, because she had to use a punch card. Now, what is a punch card? A punch card or card is a card in which you make holes, and these holes indicate the presence or absence of data. I'll show you a punch card here. This is the punch card. See, you can see the numbers. Let me show you. Okay, so this is how a punch card. This is what a punch card looks like. These ones, these twos, these threes, they represent different things, and this is the grid according to which you have to decode the data. So Margie had to do something like this, and she was very. This was something she hated very badly, and that is why she hated. She even started hating school. So anyway, so this software, the computer was repaired, and Margie was really very disappointed because she had to study again. And then they talk about the book, and when they were talking about the book, Margie's mother, their mother calls them in and then tells them that they had to study, and they were also talking about the kind of schools we have now. They were very surprised that a man was employed as a teacher, unlike a mechanical teacher. And according to Margie, a man isn't as smart as a mechanical teacher. And she was worried that an unknown man would come to their house and teach her. But Tommy explained that in our days, children did not learn at home. They went to a particular special building called the school, and everybody went there together. Everybody came back together, and everybody had fun learning together. So while they were talking about this, of course, the mother came in, and then they had to go back to study. And Margie was very disappointed. And she sat down before her computer, the screen. They call it a television screen-like thing. And then she starts studying, and the mechanical teacher asks her to insert the homework in the slots. And while she was doing the homework, she was thinking about the kind of fun the old schools had. Thank you.